Readings of Almighty God's words on the pursuit of the truth. How to pursue the truth. 27. One of the principles of God's incarnate flesh, as He lives among people and interacts and communicates with them, is to not attack them. Not attacking others involves principles for treating people and fellowshipping on the truth. Aside from not attacking others, God incarnate has another principle for treating people, which is to not take revenge. How do people view the matter of taking revenge? If someone is bullied or hurt and then justifiably strikes back or fights back, do people find this acceptable? But with God, is this a principle for how to treat people? Among humankind, anyone may take revenge, and everyone is capable of doing so. Everyone has the instinct to take revenge, as well as the intention and desire to take revenge. If someone has verbally insulted you or hurt you, even if you cannot take revenge right now, you will still look for an opportunity to do so, to let them know that you have dignity, that you are not someone to be pushed around or trifled with, that you are not a fool, and that you have the reason of normal humanity and can perceive things and make judgments. Then how do these thoughts of taking revenge on people come about? Do they come from the conscience and reason of normal humanity, or from the impetuousness of satanic, corrupt dispositions?
From the impetuousness of satanic, corrupt dispositions.
This is obvious. If someone is bullied, taken advantage of, or deceived by others, when they don't have any status, they won't have the opportunity to take revenge, and their conditions will not allow it. So they will bury all these things in their heart, where they turn into a kind of hatred. Because of this hatred, and because they received this unfair treatment, they can become hostile toward society, toward humankind, and toward everyone they view as an enemy. When any person has status, when the conditions allow, and they have the opportunity to do so, they are capable of committing acts of revenge, making those who once hurt them or looked down on them suffer their retaliation and get their just deserts. They feel that living this way is having backbone, and that they've finally unburdened themselves of this grudge. Among humankind, anyone who does this will not be condemned by society or by their conscience. So people believe that taking revenge is not an improper, shameful thing, nor do they consider it a positive or negative thing. However, from the age of grace to this stage of work, you cannot find a single sentence in all the words spoken by God that tells people to take revenge on others. God has never told people, if someone hurts you, or if someone has deceived you, you must take revenge. You must pay them back. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Is taking revenge one of the principles for how to treat people that God has told you? In the age of grace, what did God tell people about how to treat others? With patience, tolerance, and love. What else?
Love your enemies, and if someone strikes your left cheek, turn the right cheek to them.
What else? Forgive others 70 times 7. The number 70 times 7 is just representative. It does not really mean that many times. God says this to have you forgive all those who've done something wrong to you, to forgive them an infinite number of times. This is a principle. Patience, tolerance, deference, loving your enemies, turning the right cheek when the left is struck, and forgiving others 70 times 7. These are what was often spoken of in the age of grace. Then, can the principles for treating people be derived from these words? What are the principles God requires people to follow in treating others? Do they include an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth? Do they include giving others a taste of their own medicine? Do they include taking revenge? None of these are included. Although each of these things God said in the age of grace is a specific type of behavior and practice, they are all the principles for treating others that God tells people. So, in this stage of work in the last days, what does God tell people about how to treat others? To treat people fairly, to look at their strengths and merits, not at their shortcomings and weaknesses. What else is there specifically? To not deceive, argue, or attack others, and to cooperate harmoniously with others. Are these all specific principles for how to treat people? No matter the age, not a single one of the specific principles God gives for how to treat others tells people to take revenge. Not a single one says, if someone hurts you, hurt them. If someone hits you, you must hit them back. If they punch you, punch them back. If they curse at you, curse at them back. God has never said a single word like this. God asks you to cooperate harmoniously with others and treat people fairly. The other person might be someone you look down on, someone who once hurt or deceived you, or someone who attacked you or judged you. But as long as they are someone who truly believes in God, you should treat them fairly and cooperate harmoniously with them. This is the principle, and this is the principle that a person with normal humanity ought to possess and abide by in how they treat others. People with the conscience and rationality of normal humanity will accept these truth principles and practice treating others fairly. Those who do not possess the conscience and rationality of normal humanity will treat these words as a kind of doctrine or religious teaching when they hear them. If someone infringes upon the interests, pride, status, or dignity of people who cannot accept the truth, they will expose their own impetuousness. Not only will they take revenge and demand payback from the other party, but they will even get back at the other party twice over, escalating their retaliation. If anyone has hurt them, offended them, affronted them by showing them disrespect, or had any verbal or even physical altercations with them, they will take revenge and get back at them twice over. They are simply unable to abide by the principles for how to treat people that God requires. There are also many real examples involving the topic of God incarnate not taking revenge on people. God's requirement of people for how they treat others is that they should abide by the principle of not taking revenge, because God incarnate possesses this kind of normal humanity and this kind of humanity essence in His real life and work environment. What does it mean that He possesses this kind of humanity essence? It means that he can strictly abide by such a principle of self-conduct in how he treats people, and strictly abide by this principle of self-conduct in how he lives among humankind and among groups of people. This is because he has such a life essence. And it is also because he has such a life essence that he has such a reality in his living. God incarnate lives among people practically. He leads a real life in which he deals and communicates with people. He does not live in a vacuum. Living in the flesh, he will inevitably come into contact, communicate, and deal with people. When interacting and dealing with corrupt humankind, he will inevitably be treated unfairly, disrespected, discriminated against, deceived, bullied, and judged in ways that are at variance with reality. How do I approach this kind of unfair treatment? Living among people these years, not to mention the various kinds of unfair treatment I was subjected to among non-believers, just in terms of the family setting, the local church, and all the upper-level leaders and workers and ordinary brothers and sisters I could come into contact with. Tell me, was everyone able to treat me fairly? Definitely not. I'm the same as you. I have been an ordinary believer, and I have also been a member of a family. When I was a member of a family, I was subjected to all kinds of unfair treatment. In a family, among siblings, whoever is the most forceful has the final say, and the one who is guileless and sensible is always bullied and treated unfairly. Within the family setting, I remember a few specific incidents. In these incidents, if you were domineering, unreasonable, and kicked up a fuss, you would not be bullied or treated unfairly. But if you were sensible and treated these incidents rationally, you would be bullied. If others kicked up a fuss and were unreasonable, they would forcibly take advantage of you and act shamelessly. I do not know how to act shamelessly. I only know how to be sensible and treat such matters rationally. But being sensible meant I would be bullied. Look at this world. No matter what group of people it is, fairness and righteousness do not hold power. Whoever can act shamelessly, kick up a fuss, and force unreasonable arguments through gains the upper hand. The more sensible you are, and the more you value fairness, conscience, and rationality, the harder it will be for you to gain a foothold, and the more you will be bullied. It was like this for me within the family too. I was bullied by other family members. In the local church, there were also some people who always discriminated against me. I had not offended them or hurt them. Just because I was young at that time, acted a bit proactive and enthusiastic, and was willing to attend gatherings and participate in various activities, some people always looked at me with prejudice and gave me ill-intentioned looks. Moreover, they cursed at me and judged me behind my back, saying all sorts of nasty things. Later, when I went to churches in other places and lived together with the local brothers and sisters there, it was the same. No matter what I did, some people would develop notions, and some even mocked me, belittled me, and judged me behind my back. No matter what unfair treatment I received, over the years, I have never taken revenge on anyone who once hurt me. While some people may have cursed at me or judged me, or even said very nasty things about me, I have never taken revenge on them. What does it mean to not take revenge? What forms of behavior constitute taking revenge? There are many forms of behavior of taking revenge. One kind of revenge would be throwing people's past misdeeds in their face, letting them know that I now have status, how I felt when they cursed at me and judged me in the past, and that now that I have status, it would be all too easy if I wanted to deal with them and take revenge on them. But I have never done that, nor will I. Why will I not do that? I have principles in my heart for treating all kinds of people. If someone's humanity is bad and they're an evil person, it's not a big deal if they hurt me. But if they disturb the church, harm the interests of God's house, violate the church's administrative decrees, violate church principles, or go against work arrangements, since God's house has administrative decrees, it will naturally handle them. If the brothers and sisters are blind and have no discernment and want to elect them as a leader, I will fellowship with them on the principles of God's house for electing leaders. If the brothers and sisters have discernment when it comes to this person, they can ask them to drop out of the election. If they have no discernment and elect them, then let them try being a leader. Once the brothers and sisters have suffered enough, they will naturally be able to discern them and will remove them. In one respect, this allows the brothers and sisters to learn a lesson. They can learn how to discern and know people. In another respect, this is strictly abiding by the administrative decrees of God's house and the principles of God's house for handling all kinds of people. And there's another point here that's even more important. God's house, the church, is a place where the Holy Spirit operates, where God holds power. It is the house of God. What does it mean that it's the house of God? It means that the truth holds power, which in turn means that the truth has the final say here. Everyone who comes to the church has a suitable outcome and destination. Whether anyone is kept, leaves, or stays, whatever environment anyone is in, and how God's house handles them, God has His timing for all of this. The fact that someone has hurt me, offended me, cursed at me, or framed me and judged me behind my back does not count as violating principles in my eyes. Then what is violating principles? It is harming the interests of God's house and violating the administrative decrees. The truth holds power in God's house. Sooner or later, evil people will receive retribution. Everyone will receive the punishment they deserve according to their deeds. Handling all kinds of people is the church's business and the work that leaders and workers ought to do. There is no need for me to do it directly. This is my principle for treating things like this. No matter what anyone has done or said to me in the past, whether respectful or an affront, whether appropriate or inappropriate, I can treat them fairly. As long as you live the church life in God's house, or if you've only believed in God for a short time and do not understand the truth, and the Holy Spirit's work has not progressed to that stage, then you can remain in God's house. Before the time comes to finally announce people's outcomes, I can wait. I will not use your attitude toward me alone as sufficient evidence to determine your outcome. Therefore, I will not take revenge on anyone who has ever hurt me. I will treat them according to principles. I have come into contact with some people in the church. Some of them speak to me rather impolitely and without respect. Seeing that they had this kind of attitude toward me, I ignored them. Tell me, does that mean I had a bad attitude toward them? Then should I have pruned and disciplined them because of their attitude? I have never actually done such a thing. What ended up happening was that some brothers and sisters couldn't stand it anymore. They stuck up for me, saying, "How can this person have this attitude when speaking to God? Cleanse them away." The brothers and sisters were very indignant. Based on that person's consistent behavior, they cleansed them away according to the principles. Seeing that the brothers and sisters had cleansed them away, I knew in my heart, it seems this person's usual manifestations of humanity aren't that great. The brothers and sisters would not handle them just because they had a bad attitude toward me. Presumably, this person's behavior is poor when it comes to most things. The church was acting according to principles in handling them. I had nothing to say about this. I respect how the brothers and sisters chose to handle it, and I respect their decision. But this respect is not because you handled someone who was impolite to me. What I respect is the church's principles for handling people. Tell me, is this principle of how I treat people correct? When it comes to how to treat people, I have never told local church leaders to handle those who judged me or verbally insulted me in the past. On the contrary, if a local church promotes and elects certain individuals among them to be gospel directors or leaders and workers, I do not stand in the way. I give them an opportunity. This is especially true for people in the church of my hometown. They just do whatever duties they ought to do. I have not authorized anyone to take revenge on those who once hurt or offended me. I have never done a single thing like this. How do I view this in my heart? If such people truly pursue the truth and their dispositions change, there is hope for them to attain salvation. The nasty things they said to me before were all problems of their humanity, caused by their corrupt dispositions. At that time, they did not understand the truth, and all had vicious dispositions. It was inevitable that they would say some nasty things and do some inappropriate things to those they looked down on. In particular, when those whom they were jealous of or looked down on were promoted, envy, jealousy, and hatred arose in their hearts. Their corrupt dispositions would then dominate them and drive them to act, and they would speak devilish words. This was caused by their corrupt dispositions and their ambitions and desires. Coupled with the fact that they did not have God-fearing hearts in the slightest, they could say any nasty thing. They would say whatever helped them vent their anger, whatever allowed them to ease their hatred, and whatever allowed them to achieve their goals. No matter what nasty things people have said or what bad things they have done behind my back, if it falls within the scope of the normal revelation of corrupt dispositions and is something God can forgive, then, given that God holds sovereignty over all things, God will give them opportunities, allowing them to be promoted, cultivated, and used, and some people can even be made perfect. However, if these revelations exceed the scope of the corrupt dispositions of normal humanity and are condemned by God, then, given that God scrutinizes all of this, what God will do to these people, or what He will arrange for them and how He will handle them, is up to God. I do not need to worry about this, nor do I need to intervene. Therefore, when I am subjected to some unfair treatment or hear words that attack me and condemn me, I feel a bit of sorrow or sadness in my heart, but I will not violate principles to do anything. Not only do I remember these things, but I also look further into these people's humanity essence that gets exposed through their behavior. However, as to what verdict is ultimately passed on all these behaviors and revelations of theirs, their humanity and their disposition essence, and what their ultimate outcome will be, I have only one way of handling it. I leave it all to God. This is because God holds sovereignty over all things. Everyone's fate is in God's hands, and God holds sovereignty over the fates of all people. I do not determine any of your outcomes. Although I can see through to all of this, define and pass verdicts on it in my heart, and have opinions about you in my heart, I never publicly characterize you. I do not do that. If the church wants to handle you, I can offer my opinions, but I do not intervene or stand in the way of the church's handling of you. At the same time, I do not interfere with God's Spirit exercising His sovereignty over you. I treat people based on these principles, so the unfair things done to me and the nasty things said to me by those who have interacted with me stop with me and don't go an inch further. What does it mean that they don't go an inch further? It means that no matter who has said nasty things about me, bullied me, insulted me, or hurt me, I have never brought it up to anyone, much less taken revenge on them. Some people say, "It's been many years since then. Is it that you've forgotten about these people?" In one's life, there will always be some things that leave a deep impression and can never be forgotten. It's not that I have forgotten these things, nor is it that I cannot sense them, much less is it that I don't understand them. I am able to not harbor resentment and to not take revenge because my heart is devoid of such things as resentment and revenge. This has become my principle for how I treat people. One aspect of this principle is treating everyone fairly. The fate of all people is held in God's hands. Everyone's outcome and destination are related to what they have done, their manifestations, their attitude toward the truth and toward God, and the path they walk. They are determined by these factors. What anyone has done to me is not a standard or factor for measuring their outcome and destination. Therefore, when it comes to not taking revenge, the most important point is that I have my principles for how I treat all kinds of people. If you have hurt me, harmed me, deceived me, or even insulted or cursed me, I will not resort to revenge against you, because taking revenge is not my principle for how I treat people. nor is it the principle God teaches people for how to treat others. Therefore, before God tells people the principles for how to treat others, God also has His own principles for how He treats people. In God's words, and in all the principles God teaches people, there is no such principle as taking revenge on others. Would you say this is the case? Are the principles by which I handle all kinds of matters and treat all kinds of people in conflict with the truth principles I have fellowshipped over the years? God incarnate is able to not take revenge in His normal humanity. Is it easy for corrupt humans to do the same?
No.
Why is it not easy? Corrupt humans have a vicious disposition, so they are unable to refrain from taking revenge. They know what principles God tells people for how to treat others, but they cannot abide by them because they have a vicious disposition. Even if you have no intention of hurting them when you speak, if you're not careful and say a single thing that hurts them, they will fly into a rage out of humiliation and want to take revenge on you. They will also try to turn it into a big deal so as to attack you. They will smear and slander you behind your back and speak ill of you to others, saying how ambitious and devious you are, while that's actually not the case at all. You merely said something unintentionally that hurt them. You didn't have any malice, yet they can take revenge on you. You see, isn't the vicious disposition of people like this frightening? Some people, in order to take revenge on others, can be unreasonable, act shamelessly, and even throw tantrums and kick up a fuss. This is not in accordance with principles. Corrupt humans often act this way, right? How do I act when faced with the prospect of taking revenge? No matter how others treat me, I do not take revenge on them, nor do I act shamelessly. No matter when, my principles of self-conduct cannot change. I must be reasonable, and I must conduct myself and do things within the scope of the rationality of humanity. I cannot resort to methods that are devoid of humanity to take revenge on you just because you are irrational and have no humanity. That would be inappropriate. I must hold fast to my job and hold fast to my principles of self-conduct. I will not abandon my principles of self-conduct just because you have no humanity and do not act as a human should. I will still conduct myself as I ought to. My principles of self-conduct remain unchanged. This is exactly how I acted at home. When it came to things like washing the dishes, tidying up the house, and cleaning, no matter how much others kicked up a fuss or how unreasonable they were, I still did what I was supposed to do, and I never took revenge on anyone because I had received unfair treatment. In the end, what title did the parents give me? They said I was high-minded. To this day, I remember these words clearly. This is my principle for treating people, and it remains unchanged to this day. Not only did I act this way at home, but later, when I went to various churches and came into contact with brothers and sisters, this principle did not change either. Tell me, is this determined by humanity essence? Can you achieve this? It's difficult, right? You could not achieve it even if you exhausted yourself trying. People just want to fight for their pride and argue their case, yet they forget the boundaries and principles of self-conduct. No one has ever abided by the boundaries and principles of self-conduct. Why does no one abide by them? Because the life within people is devoid of normal humanity and principles. People's life is their corrupt dispositions, which come from Satan. No matter what you do, the principle that governs and guides your behavior always comes from corrupt dispositions. No matter what reasoning you use or what the basis of your actions is, it all comes from corrupt dispositions. Therefore, interacting with people according to principles is too difficult for corrupt humans. You see, don't these things in life that I talk about sound very ordinary? But acting this way among corrupt humankind is characterized as being high-minded. This quality of being high-minded is something most people do not even have and cannot attain, much less can they show any deference. They fall too short of being able to interact with others according to principles, for these things are simply not present in corrupt humanity. It's not that people cannot hold fast to principles, but rather that they have no principles. No matter what you say or do, or what you encounter, your corrupt dispositions are revealed. Your personal preferences, feelings, interests, vanity and pride, longing for fame, gain, and status, your ambitions and desires, and even your desire to take revenge and go after people, all show themselves. These things take charge and govern what you say and do, which shows that your heart is fully occupied by these corrupt dispositions. Thus, when you suffer a loss, you cannot swallow your anger. You insist on fighting to see who comes out on top before you will give up. What happens in the end? In order to win back your pride, restore your dignity, and safeguard your own interests, you will blast through the boundaries of conscience and frantically vie and fight with the other party, and even take revenge unscrupulously, stooping to any low. And when you take revenge, you curse at them until you see red. The more you curse at them, the less you feel it eases your hatred. The more you curse at them, the greater your anger becomes. The more you curse at them, the deeper your hatred grows. And then it's time to come to blows. Once a physical fight breaks out, enmity is born. The situation becomes unsalvageable, with no way to back out. So, taking revenge is basically the exclusive domain of corrupt humankind. The fact that you can take revenge proves that your conscience and reason have no control over you. Furthermore, some of you simply do not possess conscience and reason. Thus, when you encounter some situation, so long as the other party harms your interests or hurts your pride, not only are you unable to treat them according to principles, but you also unscrupulously take revenge, blasting through the boundaries of conscience and morality to do so, even thinking that your vengeance is particularly justified. You continually replace truth principles and the principles of self-conduct with evil deeds. What you live out is the face and appearance of a devil, yet you still feel that you have won and gained an advantage. In actuality, how does God view this? What kind of behavior and what way of conducting oneself are positive things in God's eyes and are recognized by God? This is the most crucial and important thing. On the surface, because some people are very shrewd, are eloquent, know how to safeguard their vanity and pride, know how to find opportunities to take revenge on people, and know how to kick up a fuss and act shamelessly. They never suffer losses no matter what they encounter, and they can enjoy comfort and ease, not having to suffer any pain. They can strike back at whoever provokes them or hurts them, gaining both outward prestige and actual benefits, never allowing their pride to suffer a blow. However, they will never accept the truth or treat people according to principles, and can even do things that blow past the boundaries of conscience and morality. Taking revenge and hurting people in order to safeguard one's own pride and interests. In God's eyes, these are all evil deeds. You may have safeguarded your vanity and pride and preserved your fleshly interests, but you've never conducted yourself or treated people according to the principles God teaches. So how does God view this? You have never gained God's approval before Him. You are too shrewd and too much of a schemer. You vie for outward prestige, actual benefits, and personal interests, and fight for your pride. For the sake of safeguarding your vanity and pride, you never take to heart the principles of self-conduct that God teaches you, and never abide by them. Therefore, though some people's fleshly interests don't appear to have suffered any loss at all, and it seems they lead a particularly successful, wonderful, and respectable life, they do not have the slightest bit of the life-bestowing truth of God's words. They have not gained it. They also have no capacity to grasp things. They cannot grasp it and do not understand it. Isn't this suffering a loss in terms of one's life? They have not gained the truth. Their life has suffered a loss, and God does not bless them. Yet they still feel that they are quite smart, and that they haven't suffered any loss. Such people are the most stupid,